Welcome back to another video and thank you for joining me. My name is Alistair Parnell and today what I want to do is give you an overview of this incredible instrument. Now, as you know, if you've got an Aerophone Pro, you can just turn it on and you can enjoy hundreds of amazing sounds right out of the box. But if you're anything like me, you're soon going to want to dig a little bit deeper and get under the hood of this thing. Before we can do that, we need to have a good basic understanding of how this instrument works. I know there's a manual and there's a parameter guide, but they're not so easy to understand. So I'm here to save you a lot of time and pinpoint the most important information you need to know. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell and give me a thumbs up. And please stay tuned to the end of this video because I want you to get involved in my next videos as well. Let's get into it. Okay, I'm going to break this into 6 different chapters. You'll be able to see along the bottom of this video the chapter markers. Just hover your mouse over the bottom of the video and you'll see those chapter markers pop up so you can get to the bit that you want to see straight away. So, what are we going to look at? Well, firstly, just the basics on what the actual controls are on this instrument. Then we're going to look at different settings. We've got to look at system settings, the scene settings, what we call assign settings, Midi settings, and then I'll give you a very quick glimpse at how a scene is actually made up. Now, I'm sure you'll all know about these controls, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, and I've even done a slideshow for this one. Okay, we're looking at the controls first, and I need to make sure you understand this. We have 2 different types of controls. The first type are continuous controllers. That means things that always are sending out information continuously. So things like the bite sensor, the breath sensor, the thumb pad and the thumb lever, they all send out information all of the time, quite a lot of it as well. And the other set of controls are really more like a switch. They'll turn something on or turn it back off again. So we have the S1 and the S2 key. And I don't know if you knew this, but each one of these side keys, so the palm keys or the side keys, the alternative, the high F sharp key and the front F key, they can all be used as a switch if you'd like them to. Now, you'll see there's a column that I've put in the slide that says number. Okay, this is digging a little bit deeper. So for each of those controllers, they don't just send out one different control. So for instance, with the breath controller, it can send up to 8 different parameters at the same time. With the bite controller, well, it's 4 parameters. The thumb pad, the thumb lever, and all of those switch controls, they can send up to 2 different controls simultaneously as well. That's a lot of control. So, what sort of thing can we control with all of these different controllers? Well, on the continuous controls, we can change things like volume and growl, vibrato, pitch, filter, and any kind of synth parameter. And then on the switch controls, well, that's more for things like harmony, making a sound go for portamento, a drone, a sustain, maybe even a change of scene or effects or the transpose function. There's a lot to choose from. Let's get into these different types of settings. Okay, the first type is a system setting. These are overall things. These are things that when you change them, it will apply to pretty much everything about the Aerophone Pro. So things like the overall transposition, the volume output, whether the internal speakers are on or off. We can set up our bite sensor and our breath sensor, the sensitivity of the thumb pad, the fingering mode, whether we want to use the iWii fingering mode or the iSax fingering mode, and then things like the Bluetooth control as well. They're all in the system, in the menu, right here on the Aerophone. Scene settings. There are just a small amount of scene settings right here on the Aerophone. Go past those first system settings and you'll get to the scene settings. So here we can set different things for each scene. The basic ones like transposition, the volume of each scene, and the amount of effects for each scene. Now make sure you're paying attention here because this is crucial. We have a switch on the Aerophone menu called Assign Source. We're going to look at a lot of different settings now, but there's one switch which sends either all of those settings to one set or a different set. Okay, so let's look on this next slide. With the Assign Source switch set to System, then all of those settings that you made on the menu, assign settings on the Aerophone, they will be the ones that will be used for that scene. So things like how the breath sends out the information, the bite, the thumb pad, the thumb lever, S1, S2 and the side keys, they can all be set up in the assign settings right on the Aerophone menu itself. However, sometimes what we'd like to do is have different settings for each scene. Okay, so now what we do is we switch the Assign Source switch over to the Scene setting side and we can set different parameters for each one of those controllers for each scene. Now we're not done quite yet, I'm afraid, because there is another set of settings. Now we're looking at MIDI settings. You go all the way to the end of the menu on the Aerophone Pro, you'll get to a set called MIDI settings. You'll see some of the same things again. Breath settings, bite settings, thumb pad, thumb lever, S1, S2. Again, we've got those. But this is for something different. This is for sending out information to an external synthesizer or a computer or an iPad. Now that could be really useful because you might want to control things differently for an external bit of kit to how they control in the internal sounds. You can also send some other settings with each scene for the MIDI side of things as well. So if I want to set a scene to select a program change, a voice on an external piece of gear, I can do that. It can also set the volume of that external sound, the pan, the effects, even individual synth parameters, all switched with each scene if you'd like to do that. And again, there's a really important switch. This time it's a physical switch on the side of the Aerophone, just above where the headphones go in. MIDI control. It's called MIDI control, and it can be on or off. If that switch is on, now all of those different parameters that you've set up for the MIDI settings, they're the ones that are going to go to your external bit of gear. If you have this switch set to off, now all of the parameters that you've set for the internal sounds on the Aerophone, they're the ones that are going to be transmitted to your external piece of gear. So tremendous amount of flexibility there, depending on internal or external sounds. So, as an overview then, the system settings of course pretty much affect everything in the system. And then we have the three main categories, the assign, scene and MIDI settings. Don't forget those two important switches. And of course your scenes get fed through to the effects for loads more creativity. And finally, just a very quick look at how a scene is built up on the Aerophone Pro. Okay, let's look at this chart. The smallest part of a sound on an Aerophone is called a partial. A partial can be a different sound. A partial could have different characteristics, like you could transpose it to a different note, it could have a different routing for its effects, could be at a different octave, all sorts of things for each partial. Now get this, each partial we can have up to 4 partials to make up one tone. Now careful, that's not a scene, that's a tone. You can save, I believe, up to 600 different tones on the Aerophone itself. We're not done yet though, because a scene can be made up to 4 tones. That is 16 different partials. It's incredible, okay? Now, just to clarify, these are the tone basics, the scene basics for the Zencore sounds. If you're using a supernatural sound, then you can use one supernatural sound and one Zencore sound, okay? So that's 4 partials and 1 supernatural sound. And if you're using a drum kit sound, well, then you can just use that one drum kit sound in a scene. Nevertheless, that's an incredible palette of sounds at our disposal. Well done, you've passed your homework for today. I hope that's really helped you and just given you a better overall picture of the system of this Aerophone Pro. Now, as I said earlier, that's going to be really important for you to understand, because my next videos are going to be individual videos or tips and tricks on certain aspects. Things like, how do you play chords on an Aerophone? How do you play a drone sound on the Aerophone? How do you make one of those cool rotator sounds on the Aerophone? We're going to cover all of that and more. And I'm sure you've got some of your own requests as well. And if you have, I'd love you to get involved with this channel and be on this channel with me. The way to do that is join my Facebook group, which is called iSax. Now make sure you answer the membership questions so that I let you into the group. Once you're into the group, you'll find it's a really friendly place with a lot of people that are offering their help and support as well. If you'd like to, you can upload a short video question on the Aerophone Pro. I will then use that video on this channel on an upcoming video, and I'll try and answer your question for you as well. I just think this will be a nice way of us all getting to know each other a little bit better, and we'll get to see your faces on this channel as well as just mine. So please don't forget, make sure you've subscribed if you haven't done so already. Click the notification bell, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below if you'd like to, and most importantly, stay safe, enjoy playing this amazing instrument, and I'll see you in the next one.